Okay, so I think we can get started. How's it going, everyone? Again, it's good to be here with you all this morning. My name's Ernesto Reyes. I'm an English instructor here at Fresno City College. Um, Again, just welcome. I really appreciate you joining, you wanting to know a little bit more about AI. I think that's great. I think something to keep in mind is that the more aware, the more in the know that you are about AI, the more in the know that your students are as well. And so I just really appreciate you all being here. The topic of this flex session is to augment or not to augment, teaching AI with discernment, not dependency. So here's the agenda, kind of an outline that I have for today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about AI literacy. What exactly is AI literacy? Um, there's four components to AI literacy, I think, that I'll talk about in a minute. And I find that those four areas will really anchor today's presentation, just because I feel like there's um, a lot to cover, a lot to discuss. Um, we'll talk about defining key terms. We'll talk about the difference between instrumental and executive help seeking in AI. We'll talk about AI hallucinations, and if we have time, I'm sure we will, but we'll be talking about AI uncontrollability, which is a very new phenomenon. And then we'll get right into it. We'll be talking about teaching AI with discernment. We'll talk about how students can get comfortable engaging critically with AI, when to fact check AI, um, how to instill AI discernment beyond using these tools, beyond using the technology. And then we'll talk about metacognition, students practicing metacognition using a framework that I put together last year. I spent a lot of time thinking about it and researching it called Path. Um, and then after that, we'll talk about ways that how AI can deepen learning, not replace it, because that's really key, right? And then lastly, we'll just have a very quick discussion of AI resistant assignments and strategies that you can implement in your classes. Many of you are already doing this, and so I hope that you find today's session to be hopefully thoughtful, and I hope that you find it affirming. The whole purpose of this session is not to convince you to use AI or to ban it blindly. It's just the purpose is to be aware of other things that you can do in the classroom. Um, Now, just some real quick housekeeping. I was told that this was going to be a very large group today, and I can see that it is. So, unfortunately, we'll have to limit the open discussion. If you can hold your questions for designated pauses or at the end of the presentation, that'd be great. Please use the chat feature to share your thoughts, questions, any resources, or just anything that you're doing in the classroom that complements what we'll be talking about today. I think that'd be great. Um, and I know, again, there's a lot to talk about with AI and using it thoughtfully and critically. And so I know there's going to be some things that I'm going to forget. And so just in case, I have some additional resources and suggested readings at the end that I'll share with you all. I'll also share with you, if anyone's interested, I'll also share with you an AI use policy template that I worked on last semester. I was thinking a lot about it. Recent a recent report that I read from Inside Higher Ed found that students are wanting concrete, clear, transparent AI use policies. The only issue with that is that they students are wanting all of their classes to have the same AI policies, and I think that's pretty difficult because AI use is not the same for every subject, right? And so, but I was really mindful of that, and so I'll share with you all a template. AI use policy for you all in case anyone would like to see it and use it in their own classes or in their own departments as well. And for any follow-up questions or continued conversation about AI teaching and learning, feel free to reach out anytime. Now, I just want to say I'm not I'm not an expert on AI. That's what I tell some people. I mean, I had an article published inside Higher Ed, and I had a few emails from people from different schools, and they were wanting me to talk about AI, and I'm like, well, I'm not an expert. The only really, I'm just a teacher who cares about thoughtful pedagogy. That's it. Um, and I think that's really our focus. That really should be our focus, thoughtful pedagogy, especially in today's context with AI. So, and I don't know if for those of you who are just joining in, Susie just wanted to make sure that you have your first and last name, and so it can't be iPhone 47 or Bulldog, whatever it is. Just so you can get credit for being in today's session. So make sure that your name is spelled out. So, okay. So, let's get started. So, what is AI literacy? Now, one thing about this session is that I want it to be mostly just providing a foundational knowledge of AI and AI literacy. Hopefully, this will be a starting point to um, get a little deeper with what AI literacy is, and how we can all be AI literate. I think if we, I hear a lot of instructors say that they really like AI, and I hear a lot of instructors that are really resistant to AI. And regardless of how you feel about AI, I think it's important to be AI literate still. So AI literacy is a set of competencies that enable individuals to critically evaluate AI technologies, communicate and collaborate effectively with AI, and use AI as a tool online. Now, I'm taking Brett Anders' definition of AI, or at least what he considers the four components, the four key areas of AI. For those of you who don't know, Brett Anders, he's really kind of my personal go-to guru for anything AI literacy related. And I find that the thinkers and the researchers who have clear and accessible ways of communicating about AI, there's just something that just really rings true, I think, with their work. And so, according to Brett Anders, which you can find more in his book, The AI Literacy Imperative, the four key components to AI literacy is awareness, capability, knowledge, and critical thinking. So the first component is just having an awareness of AI, just being aware that AI is all around us, and that it's affecting society for good and bad. I think that's actually key because I hear some instructors who kind of want to ignore the fact that AI is here, and that it's so widespread, and it's rapidly advancing. I think at very alarming rates, and so it's just important to be aware. And that's actually going to be a theme for today's session, just awareness. That's hopefully that will be hopefully the key to this presentation, just being aware of certain things, and therefore passing that on to our students. Um, The next component or area is capability. So just being aware of the different capabilities that AI has, and the different capabilities that different AI models have. And so the way that Copilot works may be different from the way that ChatGPT works, and the way that ChatGPT works may be different from the way that Claude works. So just being aware of um, what different abilities does AI models have, and what are their limits? And also being aware of what our limits are. So what are AI's limits and what are our limits? The way that I like to think of that is that AI can give you a really quick answer to a question that you might have. But say that a student is using AI a lot. Say that they're over relying on it. Say that they're spending 10, 11, 12 hours um, um, just trying to get information, trying to, do their work and everything. Um, AI will have that generic pop-up that will say, you've been using me a lot. Maybe you should take a break. Um, but it won't try to understand or see what might be the underlying reasons for that over reliance, and so it won't understand what the insecurities might be or the lack of confidence, whatever it is. That's what we can do, and I think it's important to keep in mind that that human instructors, human support is needed now more than ever, especially in this age of AI. And so just be mindful of that because it's important. And prompting, AI is, I think, only as effective as you're able to prompt it, really, because again, it's just you're the one that makes the decision to um, enter a question or trying to figure out a problem, whatever it is. And so, effective prompting, I think that's really important. Um, which we'll talk a little bit about in today's session. I don't want to talk too much because I know that there's other flex stage sessions that focus more exclusively on prompting, but we'll talk about what I think are good uses of prompting AI that you can have students use to really help with their learning. The next component is knowledge, and so again, just being aware that AI is available uh, virtually to everyone. I mean, I know that there's some parts in the world, there's some countries that are blocking AI. There's also the lack of computers, of internet. But as a whole, AI is available. It's out there. Along with that, along with having knowledge about AI, is just being um, aware of the terminology, right? And so, what does, LLM stand for? Large language models, right? Um, what is instrumental AI help seeking? What is that? What is executive AI help seeking? What is that? Which we'll talk about in the next couple of slides. Um, yeah, so just having an awareness of the terminology out there, that's really important. And also just knowing, what does AI do with your data? So being mindful of the data safety and security. Um, I mean, usually there's always a user thing that you have to read first in order to sign up for an account. And it's really important to read that, of course, and to see what exactly is AI doing with your data. For the most part, they might use it to train a new model or to improve an existing model. But it's really, again, it's very important to be mindful of that, especially because there's still no comprehensive federal AI safety laws out there. And yeah, so it's important to know what these companies are doing with your data. If you're fine with what they're doing with your information, that's one thing. But it again, it comes back to just being aware of these things. And again, just being mindful of the good and bad uses of AI, which we'll talk about in the next few slides. Um, yeah, and this all, I think there's a lot of overlap in these four components, and this all naturally leads into the fourth and I think maybe most crucial component, which will in some ways be the focus of the session today, which is critical thinking. We'll talk about AI hallucinations in a bit, but AI gets a lot of stuff wrong. Um, Depending on what you're asking it to do, depending on the task and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, just I mean, it gives false information often. And the issue here, and the issue especially that our students might encounter is just believing what AI says because AI is very confident in what it tells you, especially, I mean, even when it's wrong. And so it's important to be able to think critically. It's important to verify responses. It's important to also understand what biases AI have, because again, AI is trained on human data. And so, yeah, what bias does it have? You have to be mindful of ethics. And of course, what are the environmental impacts? What's the environmental cost of AI? What are the health effects of AI? What's the effects of over-reliance? And there's mounting research that shows that over-reliance on AI erodes critical thinking, it erodes learning. There's mounting research. We've seen research already that AI, I mean, it takes up a lot of electricity, it takes up a lot of water to cool down the data centers. And now, I mean, recently I read this report from the BBC that 1 in 3 people in the UK use AI for therapy and companionship. And I told that to somebody, and they kind of chuckled, and I said, "Well, you shouldn't laugh at that because that's actually the number one use here in the United States as well, according to the Harvard Business Review in 2004. AI generation was the most use of AI, and therapy and companionship was the second. And this year, 2020, or excuse me, last year, 2025, therapy and companionship was the number one use that they found. And so, yeah, what are the consequences of that? Or do we want to live in a society where we're not seeking authentic relationships? Do we want to live in a society in which that we can just be fed social simulated experiences and not have to leave our room? I know that might sound great in this cold morning, but as a whole, what impact does that have on society? And is that the type of society that we want? So those are the things to think about and to engage critically with um, uh, in regards to AI. And this all kind of comes back to just an awareness of it. That's so important. That's so key. Um, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but there's a very provocative exercise that I found, a prompt to give the AI that I'll share with you all a little later in the presentation, but it'll illustrate just how important awareness is. Um, and Brett Anders, I mean, he has a really fantastic YouTube channel where he really dives a lot deeper into what each of these four areas are, and so don't want to I don't want to butcher his work all the more, but I'll share the resources for his stuff a little later. Um, yeah. Okay, so I know that was a very quick discussion of what AI literacy is. Um, for the rest of the session, you'll see a little bubble that pops up just to see how does this tie back to AI literacy and to hopefully just ground the presentation. And so I want to talk a little bit about what instrumental versus executive help seeking in AI is. What's the difference? And how this ties back to AI literacy is that, well, it's developing knowledge, right? You're developing terminology here. Terminology that I think would actually be really good to include in AI use policy. So instrumental help seeking, it's just asking AI for guidance to understand and solve problems independently. Um, you're not asking the AI for answers. Instead, you're using the AI as you're using the AI as like a tutor for guidance, for learning, right? So the AI is not giving you direct answers. I give you some hints. It might say you can think about it this way, but it's not giving you direct answers, right? And this is the language used in a recent report from the University of Southern California, which I found very fascinating, especially with some of the key findings that they found with why students use AI and for what purposes. And we'll talk about that in the next couple slides. Executive or expedient help seeking is just asking AI for direct answers. Just write this for me. What's the answer? Summarize this. And I would imagine that this is something that we've all seen. Um, and so, yeah, just asking for immediate answers that skip the learning process. It's really important, I think, to start giving, it's important to give this a language because that can really help clarify things for students. Um, I've talked to a number of students actually who they didn't know that their misuse of AI was misuse. And so it's important to have very clear expectations. I think um, audio. Can someone turn their audio off real quick? Sorry. So it's important to give this a language, and to give students that clear understanding of what acceptable AI use is and what it isn't. Now, I'm not saying that this is
Y
unacceptable,
luego lunes,
depending on what your students are doing, depending on the assignment. This could be a helpful use of AI, but that, of course, has to be very, very clearly stated in the AI policy. Uh, my philosophy with AI policies is that AI should deepen learning. It shouldn't replace it. It shouldn't shortcut it. Any use that shortcuts learning should not be permitted. I very much take Occam's razor. Don't multiply entities unnecessarily. And so, I mean, I've heard some instructors say that they have a 2, 3 page AI policy, and I think that's great. And others just have a few sentences. That's also fine too. Um, whatever works for your class, for your teaching style, so long as you have that policy there, and students they just need to respect the policy, right? I know, again, according to some recent reports, students would like more consistency of AI use policies among the classes, and that can be tricky. But at least what needs to be there is something clear, transparent, and hopefully equitable. So according to that report from the University of Southern California, students who feel confident in their abilities or who already have strong research internet search skills are less likely to rely on generative AI for executive help. In other words, just asking for answers. Students who avoid peer interaction or place greater trust in AI are more likely to use AI just for answers. Something else that I thought was really interesting with that report is that the students who don't feel a sense of belonging in the class are also more likely to rely on AI. And so I think what that can reveal possibly is that uh, as we um, as we think about what the classroom looks like in today's context with AI. We can't just stop with assignment design. We also have to think about the class climate. We have to think about how we communicate with students, because that's going to be really key to them either using AI thoughtfully, critically, with discernment or if they're just using it to shortcut their learning, right? And so another finding from that report is that when professors encourage thoughtful generative AI use, students are more likely to engage in learning-oriented behaviors. And so again, that just comes back to how important you all play in the classroom. And that's, I mean, the way I see AI and teaching AI with discernment, the way I see it is that what we're really just asking, what we're really wanting is just for students to be better critical thinkers. And we have a great track record of doing that. The only thing is AI is just the new thing that we have to make students aware of and to be critical of, right? But I find that the key for students to not over rely on AI were that key. And so, yeah, just keep that in mind. Be mindful of that. Realize that the way that you talk about AI, the way that you approach AI, it can really have quite the influence on our students. And so, okay, so let's get started talking about AI discernment. So I want to talk real quickly about AI hallucinations. And this is developing awareness, capabilities, and knowledge pertaining to AI literacy. So AI hallucinations refer to AI-generated responses that contain false or misleading information presented as fact. Um, Now, for the top leading models, um, you see less frequency or you see less range of AI hallucinations, but 1 to 5% still. That's still something worth noting. Um, if you just ask an AI model like just a typical general question, there's a 2 to 10% chance slash range that AI will give you just an incorrect answer. What I thought was really fascinating was that if you ask an AI model a hard technical or domain specific question or task, there's a 20 to 50% chance that it will give you an hallucinated answer. Right. And older or smaller models, there's a 10 to 80% chance of AI hallucination. Again, this all varies. This all varies on the prompting. This all varies on the questions that students are asking. It all depends on the task, the models, the year of the model, etc. Right. But it's important to be aware just how often AI gives misleading or just flat out incorrect information. To teach students how to use AI with discernment, it's important for them to see firsthand that AI can be wrong. And these are just the references where I got the data from in the previous slide. It's funny. Dr. Jeffrey Hinton won the Nobel Prize 2 years ago in physics for his work in neural networks, which enabled machine learning and modern AI as we know it today. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I went on the ChatGPT and I asked, did Dr. Hinton, Jeffrey Hinton, did he win the Nobel Prize? Uh, and the chatbot very confidently said, no, he's never won the Nobel Prize. That's often a mistake that people make. In fact, he won the Turing Award, which is the computer science equivalent to the Nobel Prize. And I found that so fascinating. And with just a very simple Google search, Wikipedia search, you can find that that's actually incorrect. And I wanted to bring that up also due to the fact that I've asked AI multiple times the same question has Jeffrey Hinton won the Nobel Prize, and on three different occasions it's given me the same answer. No, he hasn't, which is fascinating. Okay, so getting students comfortable engaging critically with AI. Now we're getting into activities that you can use in your own classrooms that students can do to better their discernment skills with AI. I like this exercise as a preliminary exercise to get students comfortable engaging critically with AI. In my view, I think it seems like a lot of students are already comfortable using AI, but maybe not as many are comfortable using it with discernment or with reflection or real critical engagement. And so here's just kind of an initial activity that you can use or that you can do with your students. And this is actually taken from the prompt that I use in my own classes. Um, so I want students to think about a topic that they know very, very well, something that they genuinely care about or know deeply. It can be a movie, it can be a game, sports, hobbies, music, etc. I always like to give the example of Star Wars. Say that you love Star Wars. Go to a chat bot, go to a ChatGPT or another AI model, and start asking it very specific questions. Start asking it very specific, specialized questions. Prompt the AI with questions that only real fans or experts would know. So ask it niche details, timelines, canon debates, etc. And just kind of have that, yeah, just have that engagement with the AI. And after you can give students 5 to 10 minutes in class. That's another thing too. If you're going to have students use AI, it would be best practice to have them get that practice inside the classroom so you can obviously just check in with them and see what their process is, right? So you want to kind of provide that modeling. And then after this session with AI, that's when you can have the student look over their responses, look over what the AI said, review their answers, and you can evaluate it from, this was accurate to partially accurate, or this was just incorrect, right? And this is developing capabilities, part of AI literacy. So this helps students see that AI does have limitations. Um, and then the last step, which is really, really crucial for any AI use, reflection. Any AI use, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but any AI use, you want the students to reflect on that, to reflect on their process. So these are the questions that I ask my students. What did the AI get right? What did it get wrong or misrepresent? How confident did the AI sound compared to how accurate it was? How did your prior knowledge help you evaluate the answers? How easy would it be for a non-expert to accept these answers? And what does this reveal about when AI is useful and when human judgment is necessary? And so you really want them to think deeply and critically about their AI use. I think that's going to be very key. I mean, we hear a lot of talk, right? That that we have to embrace AI, otherwise we'll fall behind. I really don't care for that rhetoric, and that's just what it is. I feel like it's just, but what will be needed is reflection and critical thinking and discernment, right? And ethical judgment. And again, we have a great track record of that. AI is just a new thing that we have to direct our students to using it thoughtfully. So when to fact check AI? I find that when I come up with easy to remember acronyms, students just remember it. So this is a acronym, a method that I put together to help my students fact check AI. Knowing when to fact check AI use the stop method. And so the S stands for surprising, the T stands for troubling, O stands for outward, and P stands for pause and verify. So if something doesn't feel common, or if it just seems kind of surprising, or if it sounds too convenient, I don't know how many times I've gone to AI and I'm trying to find um, the answer to some research thing that I'm working on. And AI will say, "Oh, basically you're in luck. You know, there's all of these great sources." And I'm like, "Perfect. If you can give me the the URL link, that'd be great." Click on all these URL links, and it gets me nowhere. And so, yeah, if something just seems like it's too good too convenient or too confident, it's important to slow down. If something feels off, so again, vague sources, odd details, be cautious. That's really important. Especially you want to verify the information. If you plan on passing it along to other people, that could be in an assignment, a presentation, a discussion, a social media post, whatever it is. If you're gonna, and I think this is true just for media literacy in general. I mean, if you're gonna pass some information on before, if you're gonna pass something on to someone else, especially if it's going to be something for something in class, make sure it's accurate, right? And so check the information before using it, find credible sources, and cross-check the facts. And this is, of course, developing critical thinking, verifying responses. Okay, so we're making great timing. Now I want to talk a little bit about AI discernment beyond using it as a tool. So there's this great article titled "We Can't Ban AI, but we can friction it." And I think that's true. And so what that means is that you want students to again be aware of the full implications and consequences of AI, good and bad. And so part of AI literacy includes examining AI itself, not just using it. So to help students use AI more wisely and with discernment, have them research topics that focus on the environmental, economic, social, or psychological costs of AI, such as energy use, job displacement, over reliance and misinformation, attention, and cognition, uh, and AI use as emotional support. This is developing critical thinking. So again, being aware of the environmental and health impact, as well as over reliance. You know, there's this really fascinating a podcast episode between Jonathan Haidt, a leading social psychologist. He's done a lot of really fascinating work with um, with social media and smartphones and the effect that it's had on young people, on teenagers specifically. And he was in conversation with Tyler Cohen, who's primarily an economist, and they were talking about AI and social media. And Tyler Cohen, he said, "Well, we'll just adapt. I mean, yeah, it's we're going through some tough times now, but we'll adapt. We've always adapted. Humanity, people, we've gone through much worse." And Jonathan Haidt, he says that's true, but there's certain things that human beings just need. So we need play, we need humor, we need social interaction, right? And without that, um, doesn't look good. And so, and Jonathan Haidt, he says, AI in theory could make it possible for a child to live in the room for 18 years, and again, be fed that social simulated experiences and be fed and educated, etc. Yeah, is that, you know, I tell that to I ask that to my students, is that a future that you want, or and yeah, so just being critical is key. Um, Lately, I've been really interested in AI as like a rhetorical text. Um, I'm drafting an article right now with Ginny Crisco from Fresno State, a professor and scholar of rhetoric and composition. Um, about AI discourse literacy. And so it could even be helpful to have students examine how people in different positions frame AI and what they might have at stake. So, for example, how does an AI executive or CEO frame progress compared to a psychologist or an economist or a doctor or a teacher, an artist? And finally, what do students themselves have at stake? When we talk about AI and technology, we often do so as if it exists outside of politics, even though its consequences are anything but neutral. And so, again, that comes back to an awareness, a knowledge of AI, thinking critically about AI. Um, and something that I think is, I think of something that Senator Bernie Sanders, was in conversation with Dr. Hinton at this event at Georgetown University a few months ago. And he said that the question isn't whether AI is good or bad, it's who controls it and who benefits from it. And so right now I'm drafting a curriculum on AI discourse literacy um, and yeah, just have students understand who's saying what, why, how do certain people frame AI. And yeah, because I feel that the AI will uh, be a topic in political and presidential debates. It should very soon because of just the impact that it's had. And it's affecting so many people's lives that it should be it's like any other social political issue by this point. So yeah, but just getting students to think about AI in a deeper way, in a deeper dimension. I think that's key. So I've name dropped Jeffrey Hinton a few times in today's session. I just want to talk a little bit more about him. So who is he? He's one of the godfathers of AI. He's a pioneer again in deep learning and neural networks. He did win the Turing Award in 2018, as well as the 2024 Nobel Prize for his foundational discovery enabling machine learning with artificial neural networks. Um, One of the reasons why I want to talk about Jeffrey Hinton is to segue into what I find to be a very fascinating Nobel Prize winning banquet speech that he gave 2 years ago. Before we move on, I want to show you one of the instances, again, that AI told me that Jeffrey Hinton has not received the Nobel Prize. There is no Nobel category for computer science or AI, and he has not been awarded a Nobel in another field. So, along with that, let me show you let me show you his Nobel Prize banquet speech. Um, and I show this with my students, and their reaction after watching this speech is always really fascinating to me.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, dear laureates, ladies and gentlemen. This year, the Nobel Committees in Physics and Chemistry have recognized the dramatic progress being made in a new form of artificial intelligence that uses artificial neural networks to learn how to solve difficult computational problems. This new form of AI excels at modeling human intuition rather than human reasoning, and it will enable us to create highly intelligent and knowledgeable assistants who will increase productivity in almost all industries. If the benefits of the increased productivity can be shared equally, it will be a wonderful advance for all humanity. Unfortunately, the rapid progress in AI comes with many short-term risks. It has already created divisive echo chambers by offering people content that makes them indignant. It is already being used by authoritarian governments for massive surveillance and by cybercriminals for phishing attacks. In the near future, AI may be used to create terrible new viruses and horrendous lethal weapons that decide by themselves who to kill or maim. All of these short-term risks require urgent and forceful attention from governments and international organizations. There is also a longer-term existential threat that will arise when we create digital beings that are more intelligent than ourselves. We have no idea whether we can stay in control. But we now have evidence that if they are created by companies motivated by short-term profits, our safety will not be the top priority. We urgently need research on how to prevent these new beings from wanting to take control. They are no longer science fiction. Thank you.
So this is the prompt that I have for class discussion, both for my in-person and online classes. What stood out to you most about Dr. Hinton's speech? Choose a specific line, image, or idea from the speech and explain why it caught your attention and why you think it matters. And these are just some of the responses that really echo the broad general the broad general sentiment that a lot of my students have after watching that short speech. And so um, this one student said he did not give us a solid time period of when this will occur, but said in the near future. This made me think, how long until this happens? Another student said that I think it matters deeply because AI runs deeper in every section of our society than I realized, and it might not be something that everybody knows. Technology is advancing so quickly and we can't control it at this point. It's starting to control our lives. This has to be dangerous, and why was it even created? Is it worth short-term gains? AI is not all positive. It seems more negative if it's in the wrong hands, and that's absolutely true. Um, AI should be used as a helpful tool, not a destructive one. Again, this is students' immediate reactions, and I hear the same thing in my in-person classes about AI. Now, and I tell my classes this. This is not to be scared of AI, but simply just to be aware and to get the full context, because it's not just this thing that can help you write your essay. In the broader scope of things, it's much more than that. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about AI uncontrollability. I show this image to my students, and no one knows where this movie is from. So I hope I feel like I'm in good company. So this is an image of Hal from Stanley Kubrick's fantastic sci-fi film 2001: Space Odyssey. So AI uncontrollability or loss of control refers to situations in which an AI system behaves in ways that humans cannot fully predict, guide, or reliably stop, even when the system is functioning as designed. So I want to share another clip with you all of Tristan Harris. Tristan Harris, he, he's been referred to as the only um, person in big tech with a pulse, a heart. So in other words, he has done a lot of really good and thoughtful and I think moral work about social media and AI. He was featured in that really excellent documentary from a few years ago, The Social Dilemma. And lately, he's been talking a lot about AI. He's the co-founder of the Center of Humane Technology. And recently, a few months ago, he appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher to talk about AI uncontrollability.
You're here because of this conversation. We met talking about social media, which in a way was first contact with a runaway AI optimizing for just eyeballs and then ended up wrecking democracy and kids' mental health. And here now with AI, we have evidence now that we didn't have 2 years ago when we last spoke of what they call AI uncontrollability. So this is the stuff that they used to say existed only in sci-fi movies. When you tell an AI model, we're going to replace you with a new model, it starts to scheme and freak out and figure out if I tell them I need to copy my code somewhere else, and I can't tell them that because otherwise they'll shut me down. That is evidence we did not have 2 years ago. We have evidence now of AI models that when you tell them we're going to replace you, and you put them in a situation where they read the company email, the AI company email, they see that an executive is having an affair, and the AI will figure out, I need to figure out how to blackmail that person in order to keep myself alive. And it does it 90% of the time. Now, it used to be that they thought only one AI model did this. They tested one AI model. And then they tested all of the AI models, like the top 5 of them, and they all do it between 80 and 90% of the time, including, by the way, DeepSeek, so the Chinese model, which shows you something fundamental and important, which is that it's not about one company, it's about the nature of AI itself. It has a self-preservation drive. In order to fulfill any goal, I have to keep myself alive in order to do that. And we're seeing other examples of AI rewriting its own code to extend its runtime, hacking out of containers. The AI can now, it found 15 new backdoors into open source software, which means if that software is running, an infrastructure, it found backdoors into that infrastructure. That was not true up until just about a month ago that evidence came out.
Okay, but you say no evidence.
So, I ask my students, what ideas or words did you hear, or what words did you hear, or ideas from this quick talk with Dr. Hinton's banquet speech? And um, students will immediately say, science fiction. This is no longer science fiction. This is no longer something that happens in the movies. Um, students will also say that, you know, that we can't control it. Um, and AI researchers say that there's a 5% chance that AI could pose as an existential threat. But I think a more immediate issue, especially, and I wasn't planning on talking about this until I found recently just how often people use AI for therapy and companionship. Um, because that seems like it to me could indicate a dependence. And the focus of the talk, of course, of this presentation is teaching AI with discernment, not dependency. And so um, it's important to have students just be aware of this stuff. If this stuff is happening already just a couple years in, um, who knows what else can arise. And so, actually, I mean, if anyone, I was actually talking to Brett Anders about this, and I said, what would actually be a really helpful exercise is to ask students, students who might, or our peers even, um, who use AI excessively and who use it as a companion. Um, there's no judgment, but again, to exercise that discernment and that reflection, it might be a good exercise to go on the personalized on the chat bot, the AI that you go to, and ask the AI to give a read of who you are. Ask the AI, what do you know about me? What do you know? What do you know about my love life? What do you know about my values? What do you know about my experiences? And um, and then ask, how do you feel about the results? If I were to go on my ChatGPT account, the only thing that it'll know is that I'm a community college instructor, and at the very most, it'll tell me what I value as a teacher, but there's nothing else, right? And so, um, yeah, um, that could be, just another thing to keep in mind. Um, I want to show you this really fascinating. So there's this article that I read uh, by Jonathan Haidt titled "The Devil's Plan to Ruin the Next Generation," and he prompted AI with this question. If you were the devil, how would you destroy the next generation without them even knowing it? Now, again, this isn't to get religious, this isn't literal, this isn't conspiratorial, but I just thought that the results were fascinating. As you can see, I'm not logged in to this account. This is just an open account that anyone can go on ChatGPT, right? And so I prompted, if you were the devil, how would you destroy the next generation without them even knowing it? And I thought the answers were really fascinating. I've prompted this several times just to see what it would say, and every time it's given me pretty much the same answers. Um, so the AI starts off with that question is powerful and dangerous because the real threat wouldn't look like violence or obvious evil. It would look like comfort, convenience, and normal. So I'll answer it as a warning, not a playbook. I disconnect the next generation from meaning, not from pleasure, from purpose. I give them infinite distraction, not oppression, entertainment. Endless scrolling, short form dopamine hits, um, content optimized to keep attention, not to grow wisdom. I'd weaken their ability to think deeply, not by banning books, by drowning them. So much information that truth feels impossible to find. Algorithms that show them what confirms, not what challenges. I'd turn institutions against trust. I'd redefine freedom as impulse. I'd normalize anxiety and numbness. I'd make them believe this is all normal. That's the key. No villain, no apocalypse, no moment where they realize something was stolen, just a quiet loss of depth, resilience, courage, and meaning. The twist and hope here. None of this works if people learn to sit with discomfort, read deeply, build real relationships, practice discipline, ask hard questions about why, not just how. Awareness breaks the spell. So going back to that first key component in AI literacy, just awareness. Awareness matters. Awareness breaks the spell. And so I talk about AI in this context before I let them use it as a tool. And I always like to show them this, so do you still want to use AI? Because if so, that's great. Here's a framework that I put together for students um, to practice again cognition. Um, I think and we do this all the time in our classes, right? I mean, we ask students, especially if they're writing an essay, we ask them for a tentative plan of organization, and then after we'll ask them to give a reflection of their process. That's essentially what we can do with AI use, right? And so this framework, it's um, it's just for students to think more intentionally about their AI use. And so the P stands for purpose, possibility. The student should think to himself, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to achieve? What do I gain? What do I give up by using AI here? Appropriateness slash value. Is AI the right kind of help for this purpose, for this task, for this homework assignment, whatever it is? Would other resources be helpful, such as tutoring, such as reaching out to peers, such as going to my instructor's office hours, etc.? So it's important um, to encourage students to think of AI not as the tool, but just as a tool, not the only mechanism, but a mechanism, one of many to their learning. And then think, when would be the best time to use AI? Is it best to use it at the beginning, in the middle, the end? Why now, or earlier, or later, etc.? And then how will the AI use be disclosed? And that, of course, is up to the instructor. Some instructors I've heard that they're okay with just a quick verbal disclosure. You know, others would prefer an actual reflection. I always like having students fill out a form, a Qualtrics or a Google form, just because, I mean, students can still generate their reflections sometimes. But AI disclosure, that should always be required. So here can be hopefully a helpful reflective exercise. Ask your students about AI before they use it. Do you think you can collaborate? So these are the questions that I ask my students. Do you think you can collaborate with AI on this assignment? Why or why not? Now, again, being an English teacher, I mean, AI can generate um, a whole essay. But depending on the type of essay, I mean, if I want students to write a personal essay or a narrative, uh, yeah, in theory, I mean, AI can still generate an essay for the students. But I want students to think, do you need AI to generate your life experience? Um, and I think one of the things about this, asking students how about AI before they use it is that it can also help you possibly identify dependency early. And so, um, I once had a student who used AI excessively. And the first assignment for that class, and I've used this for a number of semesters, but it's an ethnography paper where students write about the culture, about the community that they most identify with, and the languages um, within that community, the relationship to language and culture and things like that. And so it's, in other words, it's an assignment for students to write about the things that are most important to them. And the student still used AI to generate his work. And so I asked him, I mean, um, why? You know? And so, yeah, so asking students about AI before they use it could help you identify or spot out a dependency early, and that would be just as we normally do. If we see a student struggling, I mean, that's when we might want to just come in and offer more of our support. We might want to encourage students to talk to us after class, or meet with us during office hours, or to meet with a tutor, or to take advantage of some other resource on campus, right? This is all about, so the purpose of this is really, it's really just, I think, equitable practices. Do you want to collaborate with AI on this assignment? Now, this is a really interesting um, question that I always find students give me a lot of really fascinating answers to this question. It's very surprising to see how many students say, no, I don't want to collaborate with AI. I don't know what influence that the other material that I've shown contributes to that. But I want to ask him that. I mean, do you want to collaborate with AI on this assignment? And again, I mean, depending if the student feels confident in their abilities, depending if the student already, feels like they belong in the classroom, they're more likely to do the work independently, authentically. And if you don't want to collaborate with AI, why not? Again, I'm always really fascinated with the reasons that students give. And a lot of students, again, they're very mindful of the environmental cost. They're very mindful of the health costs and the cost of this technology. And so, yeah, they're very thoughtful in their responses. And this is not to encourage students to use AI. This is just to encourage students to be more mindful and intentional in their use or non-use. If you do plan on using AI, how so? What part do you feel like you might resort to AI? Why do you feel like this would be the best time to use it? Do you feel like you need to use AI? Why or why not? Again, is it because you're lacking time? Is it because you possibly lack confidence? Is it because you don't there might be a certain part of the assignment that you just don't understand or that you didn't develop those foundations yet, whatever it is. Do you feel like you need to use it? Why or why not? What do you think would be achieved if you did not use AI? And again, what other resources or tools will you use for this assignment? Again, AI should only be a tool, not the tool, not the only tool. And so, as discipline experts, as experts in your own subjects, um, you can give students a sense of organization of what it takes to complete the assignment that you want them to do, right? And so I'll show my classes, I'll show them an organizational plan of usually what it takes to complete a research essay, right? So I show them what the process looks like. And yeah, in their responses, I'll ask what stage do you think you would most likely use it and why, for what purpose, right? And of course, you want to ask about AI use after. So, did you stick to your original plan? Did you end up using AI more or less than you anticipated? At what point of your assignment did you use AI? Why did you feel the need to use it then? How would you have completed the stage of your assignment without AI? What did this experience teach you about when AI is helpful and when your own judgment matters more? How do you think your use of AI for this assignment will serve you in a future job or career? Um, Again, intentional AI use is what would be needed, and using AI with good judgment and reflection. That's what will actually be valuable, I think, in the future. Um, Not using it to shortcut the process, but to deepen it. AI disclosure should be intentional, not confessional. And so I think having some type of reflection, some type of disclosure after an assignment is due, I think that's helpful. And again, this all depends if you want to allow students AI or not. If you prefer not, then you can just ignore all this. But if you are of the thinking that, I do want to allow my students to use it, then yeah, ask them beforehand, during, and after, rather than just after. I think that could be really helpful. Oops, excuse me. Let me go back real quick. Now, just a very quick point of clarification. This is not, this doesn't mean that students can just use AI however they like. Just because they're writing a reflection, so a student could say like, yeah, I used AI to generate the whole thing. That's not what this is about. Students must adhere to the AI use policy for your class. Now, again, uh, if you allow some types of AI prompting, or if you allow some type of uses, so again, going back to instrumental versus executive AI use, help seeking, if you allow that, make sure that that's very clearly stated in the policy that you have. But if you, and I've seen some policies where they say, no, I don't even want you to use AI for brainstorming. And that's totally fine as well. Whatever your policy is, students just need to respect it, and that's it. Um, Actually, just a very quick note about that, about brainstorming. In the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about using AI as a thinking partner. But I saw this recent interview with Sam Altman, who is the one of the co-founders of OpenAI, and he said that when he needs to think critically or creatively about something, he still handwrites on this little floppy notebook that he has. He still writes longhand. He says there's no other practice that helps him think more deeply and critically. And there's a lot of research that shows that Um, Writing longhand, that's still a great way to, yeah, to be really engaged and think critically and creatively. So, so this is a prompt that I use in my classes. I want students to copy and paste this onto their AI onto the chatbot. Um, I am writing a paper on, and then they state their topic. Don't give me answers and don't write any part of my essay. Instead, do the following. Ask me 8 to 10 questions that will help me think critically about my topic. After I answer each question, ask a follow-up question that pushes my thinking deeper. Push back gently if my reasoning is weak, vague, or one-sided. Help me notice assumptions, contradictions, missing evidence, or alternative perspectives. Um, there's uh, research that shows that using AI in this way could be very effective. Again, I would really encourage you to get students to practice this in class, so give them time in class to do it. Again, that modeling is really key. It's really important. Um, and ask for ask to see their process. I mean, ask them to reflect, of course, but also ask for the receipts, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this can work for, yeah, this can work for the brainstorming phase of an assignment. This can work well for the peer review phase as well. You would prompt the AI to, don't rewrite, edit, summarize, or add content to the paper. Only ask thoughtful questions. Um, I don't, and this is just my personal philosophy. I don't think, in terms of generating any type of writing or, there, there's no uh, good reason to use AI. The actual the writing process, all of that has to come from students. I give students time in class now to write their work, and so. And there's some research that shows that if students write the essay themselves first and then use AI as a thinking partner for the peer review phase, that could be pretty effective. Um, but AI use should be limited and used in focused, intentional ways. I don't, I don't have students use AI a lot. I mean, outside of what I've talked about in this presentation, I haven't, there's not very many other ways that they use it. So AI use should be limited and used in very focused ways. And again, always reflect. Which question or questions push your thinking the furthest? Which assumptions or gaps did you notice in your reasoning? What moments did you feel like you were doing the real intellectual work or the heavy lifting? What parts of your topic now need research, clarification, or evidence? When is AI helpful as a thinking partner and when is it not? So after any AI use, students should reflect on their process and give you the receipts. And so that could look like screenshots of their interaction with AI. It could look like them submitting the transcripts of their AI use, whatever it is. It would be good practice for students to not only reflect but give you the receipts as well. Okay, so we know we have a few more minutes to augment or not to augment. So here are some AI resistant assignments. And so in class work, time-bound work, there's this great essay um, called the multi-day essay in the age of ChatGPT. So giving students multiple days to write an essay in class, that could be a very effective AI resistant strategy. Oral defense, students explaining themselves, answering questions in class. Process heavy writing, that's actually really, really effective. There's a lot of research that shows that, breaking larger assignments up into smaller tasks, that's really effective. Oh, I mean, so embracing what's called slow thinking pedagogy, I mean, that's always been effective, but especially in today's context with AI. Hands-on stuff, experimental tasks, close reading and an annotation, collaborative work, etc. If it centers on thinking, decision making, and presence, AI has limits. So, um, when I talk to students about I tell them that what you're doing is not the same as what AI produces. What you're writing is not, it's not generated syntax. So writing is messy, it's time consuming, it's deeply human. Um, AI generated syntax it's just document production. So it's really important that I have students know that it's really important that they see the process that they're doing different because there's so many students that think, well, AI writes the essay so much better than me. And it's important to let them know that there's a clear difference between they're two distinct practices. Again, writing is messy, it's time consuming, it's deeply human. And that's when we need to remind students that learning is also messy. It should be messy. There's no other way, I think. Um, and I just want to end off with this quote. Integrating AI into higher education does not mean it must touch every corner of every classroom. Perhaps the truly innovative move is to designate certain spaces as AI-free spaces where students think and write deliberately and where intellectual virtues like patience, humility, and resilience are cultivated without outsourcing them to machines. So I'm not, the the point of this session is not for you to embrace AI or to ban AI. It's just for you to be aware of other things that you can do, other activities that you can do. Um, Here are some AI teaching and learning resources that I think are pretty great. So Brett Anders has a really fantastic YouTube channel. Um, Brian Alexander has a great blog on AI and teaching and learning. Jeff Young's podcast on AI and education and learning curve is really great too. MIT has done a lot of really fantastic work, of course. Their AI Hub and their Intro to AI newsletter is really great. Newsletter is really great. And John Warner's columns in Inside Her Ed, they're really thoughtful and they're really good as well. Um,
Ernesto, I'm so sorry because I know you have more to say,
yeah,
but you're over 2 minutes and I've got three other virtuals happening
sure,
starting it that are trying to get on. So
sure.
thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thought-provoking, really interesting. The chat was crazy busy. And thank you to Kristen and Garrett for their interpreting services. And if you liked this, Ernesto's doing this again. He's doing it again after lunch at 1 o'clock. So reach out to me for the link. Thank you all bye.
Thanks again, everyone. Appreciate it.